Hello, BookTube, and I'm here to talk about a mammoth. Not a woolly mammoth, but the march of the mammoths. And the mammoth in question is Paper and Ink, and it is Mysteries of Paris. It clocks in at almost 1,400 pages, over 1,350 pages. With the introduction, you might as well say 1,400 pages. And it's Mysteries of Paris, and it was published on a weekly basis in a Parisian newspaper from 1842 to 1843. Now, it was written by Eugene Sue, who lived from 1804 to 1857. I think it's 1804, or was it 1805? One of those years. And as I say, it was done weekly, and I've seen various things. The back of the book here of this Penguin Classic states 150 episodes or parts. I've seen anywhere from 80 to 150, so I don't know. To be honest, I'll believe what's on the back here, so let's say 150 parts. Eugene Sue was the son of a surgeon in Napoleon's army, a well-regarded surgeon, and actually was the godson of Josephine. He also became a surgeon for a while, and he was a surgeon in Spain with Napoleon's army for a short period in the early 1820s. He turned to writing, and I think it was in the 1830s or late 1820s. And he hit gold with Mysteries of Paris. And Mysteries of Paris is a story of Paris and the mysteries of Paris. See how that works? It is a sprawling indictment in some ways, but a sprawling depiction of Paris in all its facets, from the top to the bottom, right from kings of other countries to the poor, the destitute, the dead. And all these, there's hundreds of characters in here. They all intermingle, or they're connected in some form. It's like a spider web that starts at the beginning and it goes out, but they're all connected. All the characters. It starts out with Rodolfo. He has a hobby to help people, poor people. But at the beginning, he's looking for the son of a friend who her son was kidnapped by the father, and she's been looking for him. It would be an adult son now. So he's in the bad part of town, not a good part of town, and he goes into a cabaret type bar, and there's, first of all, he has this, fight. There's a stocky guy who is accosting a young woman who turns out to be 17 years old. So Rodolfo sort of stands up for her and punches the guy out, and the guy really respects him for that. You see, that's the type of thing this is. And so they go into the bar and they talk, and he's asking his questions, and they each tell their story. And this is just the beginning. They each tell their story. And he takes a liking to Songbird. That's her name, Songbird. She's got a few names through this. So he takes her away in the next couple days and gives her a better life. And this sprawling thing is basically about Rodolfo and Songbird, but with all these other characters and storylines intermingled. Rodolfo, well, I won't go. I'll try not to do any spoilers. But Rodolfo has a lot of retainers and friends, people that will literally die for him. and will do anything for him. He has helped so many people. And Rodolfo, he can be really high-minded and moral and helping people, but he can be nasty. If you crossed him and he wants revenge, he'll use it. He'll do it, and he'll do it himself, or he'll have one of his retainers do it, and there's no coming back from that. But then he gives them another chance, generally. And it's very melodramatic, right up to the heights, and the language is, well, obviously it's in French, so it's translated from the French by two Americans, and it reads almost like a pulpy 1920s or 30s sort of gangster type story, with the dialogue and stuff like that. Men are men and women are women, but the women in here, a lot of them are extremely strong. They are extremely strong. And they some of them hold a lot of power, and some of them are just proud and know what they want in life and are working towards it, and getting by, and doing the best they can and helping other people as well, and not relying on other people to help them. So there's both these things. So there's He-Man, and then there's everything else. But that's the kind of thing it is. So there's these things juggling together with this. But as I say, it's melodramatic. Things like really high melodrama. Because it was done serially, it sort of hangs off at times with sort of cliffhangers a little bit. And we may not get back to that ending of the chapter for several chapters later, because he'll go off on another little storyline. And when he comes back to that storyline, he'll often the characters will give you a catch up, or the narrator does. Sometimes you read it, you go, wait a minute, I don't remember it happening exactly like that, because we're reading it. I'm reading it, all the way through. So, and probably that didn't really happen too much at the time. And there's other errors that have cropped in. The translators are really good with it. They don't correct the errors. Like if he says, "Oh, this is happening on a Wednesday," and then 10 pages later it's actually Friday, they will note that. They won't change it, which I like for that. And yeah, it's so sprawling that the characters are at times bigger than life and smaller than life at times. And Eugene, I don't think the story started out. Its story started out with just this thing about London, and I doubt he knew that it was going to go on so long. And so he was just writing the story and just adding more stuff, adding more characters into the mix. And he also started having moralistic discussions and saying how this could be fixed, prison reform. And yeah, some of it you just want to, like, especially the prison reform one, is he's smoking something there. Eugene, lay off. But maybe at the time it seemed sensible. But today it clearly isn't. And the other things with it, like the style of the story, he spoils. He gives spoilers at times. Like he'll say, "Well, we've talked about this, we've done this, but we haven't yet talked about these things, and they will be coming up." And in the next 600 pages, he does eventually get to those with like moralistic things with it, judgments and so forth. And it does come to an ending. They did end it, and like I say, I'm not going to spoil this. As I'm going to try not to spoil it. It's just a fabulous story. Like I say, the dialogue, and it's easy to read, especially in this translation. I buzzed through this. Basically, it took me about 3 days and a bit. I had to. Well, I not had to. I left the last 100 pages for another day, so I guess it was like four days or something, in total. Um, but it's that simple and that quick to read. And as I say, there's no huge depths to it or anything like that. But it was a huge sensation, and I think people did see depth in it, and there is in a way, because he is bringing to the forefront the plight of the poor, and the state of Paris. And people were outraged at things. Some people, when they read this, they never knew these things were happening, and probably most of the things that he talks about did happen at one time or another. And most people that are not on the street don't know the slang uh, that's in here, and he throws it in. He makes up slang, and then the translators talk about how it's difficult sometimes, obviously, to translate slang. So they had to sometimes create something that makes sense in English, so people would understand, rather than the French. Rather than translating it verbatim from the French. Um, but yeah, it made an impact, and there was some reforms from this, um, and it was very influential. Victor Hugo, Les Miserables is an obvious thing, where you've got Jean Valjean, who is helping the poor as well. There's redemption there, and there is heartache and everything like that, and there is that in here, but not as much. And Songbird is sort of Cosette in some ways. Um, Balzac, it influenced Balzac as well. Alexander Dumas, especially Count of Monte Cristo. But I will say the Count of Monte Cristo has a tighter structure and a tighter story for everything, and the dialogue isn't as chintzy as this. But that's fine. Like, you go in knowing that right from the first couple pages what what to expect. And if you just go with it and have fun with the dialogue and go with it. uh and yeah, there was criticisms at the time. Karl Marx apparently thought that it was horrible, his depiction of the poor, and his solution to the socialistic solution, and even the depiction of it was bad. Yeah, Karl Marx did not care for it, but it's still around. And it's a very fun read. As I said, well, I've said that probably several times. Um, and the other thing that's interesting is, like I said, you got your He-Men, you got the men, are men, but as I say, there are extremely strong women here, and powerful women, and keeping things together for themselves or for others. But there is the one thing that you do notice: if they're old and ugly, a woman, then she's probably going to be evil. If they're young and gorgeous looking, they're good. Well, that works for the pulpy type thing, I suppose. But but even putting that aside, the characters themselves are really, really good. There's even the names of them. There's one character called Ogre, and one called Owl. She's got one eye. So yeah, so I really enjoyed it, and this also too spurred on, I don't know, a dozen, but many copycats. Even he went on to write a Mysteries of the People, I think it is, or is it the French People? Multi volume. He also did a huge one, which I do have here somewhere, an old translation of The Wandering Jew. It's practically, I think, this size, maybe not quite as much. But it also there was copycats in other countries. There was Mysteries of London. I've got 2 of the volumes, and that was done by a very prolific author and hugely popular, way popular, more popular than Dickens or anybody else at the time. And that was George W.N. Reynolds. And here's his Wagner, the Werewolf. These were done in the Penny Dreadfuls. And then there was the Mysteries and Miseries of New York. And that was done by Ned Buntline. Buntline, I think it is. He was a dime novelist, American dime novelist. And I've got a book here, actually, with, if I can find it again, I got it specifically for June on the Range. And there are 4 Westerns. Like, he was a hugely prolific and influential pulp type writer, of the American mid to late 19th century. And so he did that. And then there's Mysteries of Naples, all sorts of other ones that were done. I've never seen any of the others. I think I've got a PDF of the Mysteries of New York. I'd love to read that. It's going to be hard on the PDF, but I do have 2 massive volumes of the Mysteries of London, which I know where they are. This is the great thing, just an aside here, that I have lost this book here. Like, I don't know how you could lose it, but I've lost this book at the moment because I'm moving stuff around. I'm culling and I'm moving stuff from shelf and everything like that. So I get a pile of books and I'll move them somewhere. Prior to that, I knew where everything was. I may not have been able to get to it immediately, but I knew exactly where everything was. Anyway, rant over. But yeah, so if you're interested, if you want something like this and like a fast reader, just a fun read to read little bits at a time and read it like, it was done in the newspaper, a couple chapters here and there, because they are short chapters for the most part. And I would say it's well worth it. Don't expect high literature out of this. It's just a fun read. It's a very fun read, and it sort of gives you a window into the time as well. So yeah, there's my March of the Mammoths, Mysteries de Paris, or however it's said. And I think that's it. There's so much that could be talked about this, but I don't want to give away too many spoilers, as I say. Get it, read it, don't let it intimidate you. A book should never intimidate you. You should intimidate the book. Thank you, BookTube.